Hey everybody, welcome into another Purple Insider Extra inside TCO Performance Center. Matthew Coller along with Sam Ekstrom here to break down some key matchups. That was the big discussion within the players and Mike Zimmer today, is how the Minnesota Vikings match up with the Dallas Cowboys. And Sam, I think that it really begins with the Dallas Cowboys running game. Michael Pierce not practicing today, which makes his odds a little bit lower to potentially play against Dallas. And that is where the Vikings defense has had its biggest weakness this year in stopping opponents' run games.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer said today that for Dallas's offense, it all starts with the run. They've got a number 5 passing offense, but a number 2 rushing offense. You can see why they're the top offense in football right now, and it's the 1-2 punch. It's Ezekiel Elliott, who's back to his rookie year form where he won the rushing title, and it's Tony Pollard, and he's got 6 yards a carry this year. The only player that has more than that is Lamar Jackson. So the running game is incredible right now for Dallas. That offensive line blocks really well, and they've got the third shortest to-go distance on third down. So they're setting up third and shorts a lot, in other words. And it's going to be hard for the Vikings, I think, to get those advantageous rushing situations if Dallas is running the ball effectively. And the Vikings defense has been really bad against the run. And with Pierce, without Pierce, it hasn't seemed to make a big difference. So that's a legitimate concern. You're going to have to get a big game from Armon Watts potentially, from Dalvin Tomlinson, and your ends need to get involved too in that run plan. So slowing down the rush is going to be, pivotal, sort of like they did a couple of years ago when they played in Dallas and beat them. They shut down Elliott that day, and they have to do so again.
Right, and last year they did not do so, and Tony Pollard broke out a big run. The Chris Jones game, you could consider.
Unforgettable.
If you remember a long, long time ago when Chris Jones was on this football team. But in the secondary, the Vikings are banged up. They do not have Patrick Peterson for this game. And it's been interesting to listen to what the Vikings have had to say about Cameron Dantzler. He was a healthy scratch in the first week. He had a very tough preseason in training camp. And when he's gotten a chance to play, it's been very much up and down so far. Sam, what did you make of comments from Mike Zimmer and Andre Patterson about Cam Dantzler now that he's getting a big chance to take on two great Dallas Cowboys wide receivers?
Yeah, Andre Patterson summed it up well, said it's not skill, it's focus. And I think that Dantzler, and he confessed this earlier in the week, that he really got thrown off being a healthy scratch in week 1. Mike Zimmer was trying to send him a message, and Dantzler maybe didn't take very well to that, and he seemed disgruntled when Bashaud Breeland was getting time in front of him with a tweet that he sent out. So just maybe getting a little too affected by external factors that might be carrying over to his play on the field, maybe getting too easily frustrated. The one game where he did play extended snaps against Cleveland was very good. So I think you have to sort of rest on that and hope he can duplicate that. And we saw enough good games from Dantzler last year to show that he can do it. He's not totally outmatched. But he is going to be sort of, I guess, the underdog in these matchups against CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. They're obviously very well established, and Dantzler is kind of trying to prove himself right now. And Dallas is going to recognize that, and I'm sure try to pick on him. I remember, was it Mike Hughes who just got obliterated by Prescott when Prescott decided he was going to throw Mike Hughes' way, and he went there over and over and over again. So they're not going to be afraid to kind of find that weak link, and if they sense that it's Dantzler, then it could be a long day.
Now on the offensive side of the ball, the Minnesota Vikings went sort of turned back the clock a little bit to their last 2 years of offense. In the second half of the Carolina game, they used a lot of bootlegs, a lot of rollouts, things that they haven't used as much this year. The play action percentage for Kirk Cousins is pretty far down from where it was the last 2 years, but they sort of brought all that back in their explosion in the second half against Carolina. Do you expect that will continue against a team that is very aggressive in the Dallas Cowboys? I feel like this is a team that the Vikings will have a really good opportunity to run their play actions and create one-on-one matchups for Thielen and Jefferson because of just the style of play where Dallas seems to rely on turnovers and big plays, but they can get beat often for deep balls and explosive plays.
Yeah, I think that when the Vikings self-scout, they probably look at that play action percentage. And remember, they did a smaller self-scout before the Carolina game and then upped their play action percentage. So that might have been a direct result of what they discovered that, hey, this has been effective for us in the past. this is what our offense is based around, and we're not doing it enough. So the fact that now they get to take on a Cowboys defense that, yes, they intercept the ball a ton, but that's not necessarily sustainable. They've given up a lot of big plays this year. That's something the Vikings can probably try to exploit. I liked Mike Zimmer's word to describe their defense. It was a pretty honest word, reckless. And that can make them dangerous to play against. They move around a lot before the snap, and they can confuse you with different looks, and their secondary can take some gambles. But that could also be the kryptonite for Dallas as well. So I think the Vikings would be silly not to try and exploit that part of their defense in this one.
Trayvon Diggs is a big part of this conversation, and I want your opinion, Sam. Is it small sample size, luck, randomness, or is it something that Trayvon Diggs that makes him a legitimate game changer?
I mean, I don't think he's going to set the NFL record in interceptions. Like, at some point, this has to cool off. We've seen interceptions be a little bit volatile. Like, Anthony Harris led the league one year and had, I think, 0 the next.
Same for Xavier Rhodes. Had a huge
5 or
year.
6
Yep,
one year,
in
yeah.
2016 and then 2017 he didn't. Same player.
Yeah, so I think you can say at the same time that Trayvon Diggs has unbelievable ball skills, and he clearly has a former receiver's skill set, and also that this probably isn't going to continue. And Diggs has given up plenty of yards through the air this year too. He's committed a lot of penalties, so he's not a perfect player, but he is particularly good at sitting on routes and stepping in front and making sure that he's aware of where the ball is. Those are all great skills to have. So I think you need to have it top of mind. I think he is a first or second round talent. I mean, he's a very good football player, but I wouldn't be scared if I'm Kirk Cousins to throw his way, because you have to stick, sort of the cliche goes, with the process. You have to do what you would normally do. You can't have in the back of your mind that Diggs is untouchable. You have to be confident to throw his way and take advantage of some of those big plays that he does give up quite a bit.
Now, what do you think about the ancillary things that are kind of around this game? I mean, the pressure on the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, they're saying one game, and that's what they should do. But at the same time, this begins a hellacious stretch of the schedule for them, and there's a lot of pressure to win this one because then that sort of gives you some freedom and some confidence to go forward and play Baltimore, play Los Angeles, play Green Bay. There's also the bright lights, and Kirk Cousins has been criticized for not winning against good teams, not winning when it comes to Sunday night or Monday night football, when it comes to the primetime games. How much of that do you factor into what will matter in this game, and how much do you kind of throw out and say, no, they're not going to worry about that?
Well, I would hate to be the Vikings going to Baltimore to avoid going 3-5. I mean, that alone is motivation to, I guess, look a little bit ahead and say, all right, this is the reality of it. We have 2 tough road games coming up and a really tough one in Week 9. We need to get this win. So there needs to be that little extra urgency, that little extra aggressiveness, I think, on the coaching staff's part. I'm not really bought into Kirk Cousins' primetime struggles anymore. I think there's been enough examples in the past 2 years that say, okay, he's done this, he's checked this box, this doesn't need to be a storyline. And, he wasn't asked about it today, I think, because we've kind of put that to bed. So Dallas is just really good. I mean, that we've in the past pointed to the reason Cousins struggles in these games is because the opponents are often good. And I think in this particular case, that's true. This is a really good opponent, and you might not win. I mean, the Vikings are underdogs in this game, but if, I think their defense would be the culprit more than their offense. At least that's the way I evaluate it going in.
Right, I agree that record does get pinned on Kirk Cousins, and quarterbacks' win-loss records, I think, over a huge sample size do tell a story, but when he was with Washington, they're often playing the other team as kind of the featured team in those games. But since they've been here, the Vikings have struggled with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback to beat winning teams. And this is a chance for them to show that there's more there. That's sort of a random thing, or that's in the past, but now they can do it. They've played close with some winning teams, this year, but have not been able to come through against Cincinnati, against Arizona, and against Cleveland. So this is their chance to do it and change the narrative about this team. And I think a win here puts them in that conversation that right now they don't exist in. Right now there's the great teams, there's the bad teams, and the Vikings are right in the middle. Well, they've got a chance to, I think, move themselves over into the good team category with a win here. Matthew Coller, Sam Ekstrom. The Purple Insider podcast is every day. purpleinsider.substack.com. Our written work from out here at CCO Performance Center. Make sure you check that out as well. And we will be seeing you after the game. It'll be very exciting. So catch you